Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film Need for Speed. Is a movie adaptation of the popular video game franchise. Is different than a lot of big car racing movies like Fast and the Furious, in which all of the street racing and all of the stunts in this films are done practically and not in CG, meaning like for real with stunt drivers. And the question really is, will this make this film any better or any different from the Fast and the Furious films in a good way that would make it really worthwhile? Is it worth having practical stunt driving rather than in the Fast and the Furious where they just go for all out ridiculousness and don't really care if it's practical, they just care if it's fun and if it looks good. Toby Marshall, played by Aaron Paul, who after his father died and has left him his auto body shop and is in a lot of debt, he helps build this amazing car, and if he builds it, he will get a quarter of the asking price, which is $2 million. He then builds that car, and then this guy Dino, played by Dominic Cooper, who he hates, and then they sell the car for over what they're asking for, and he makes a ton of money, or he's going to, and then Dino's like, what if you and me drive and do this race? But then his annoying friend who's there at the beginning dies at the end of the car race because Dino rear-ended him and he falls off this bridge and bursts into flames and stuff. But unfortunately, Toby Marshall has been framed of the murder, even though that doesn't really make any sense. Anyway, so he's framed of this murder in illegal street racing, and then he gets out in 2 years because of a lax criminal justice system. And then right when he gets out of prison, he decides he's going to race across the country from upstate New York to California to compete in this race that Michael Keaton's character called Monarch. He has to go to this underground street race competition in California because they think that's where it is, and to get noticed and get invited to this secret street race and win a ton of money to get back his auto body shop and get the revenge on his friend that was killed and beat the bad guy and have the need for speed, I guess. Doing practical stunt racing, I actually have a lot of respect for that, and I think in theory that sounds like a great idea. It's supposed to give Need for Speed something unique and something different. I noticed they were doing a lot about that like a month or so before this film came out to kind of say like, see, this isn't some dumb Fast and the Furious ripoff franchise based on a street racing video game that actually has no plot to it. It's not a bad theory, but it's just a theory that doesn't really understand what makes the Fast and Furious films actually entertaining. When I see a Fast and the Furious film, and particularly the work of Justin Lin, most of the reason I like those films is because they're really good at being stupid, bad, escapist fun, more so than a lot of Hollywood movies could ever dream of. And Need for Speed isn't as concerned with that. Like, they're not going to have a sequence like in Fast 6 where there's a runway that they drive on forever, and if you actually calculated it would be longer than any runway is on the planet Earth. Need for Speed wants to act like it has some sort of sense of reality to it, which doesn't really make a lot of sense because it's Need for Speed. It's a video game adaptation. You want people to go to this and go, oh, it was fun, it was really stupid, and it was a dumb movie and everything, but I had an awesome time. That's what the Fast and the Furious franchise delivers to you. And when you watch Need for Speed and its whole need for authenticity kind of goes against what actually makes a movie entertaining. I kind of think of it as you're watching the Avengers and you see Iron Man fall at the end and he hits the ground in the Iron Man suit, and your friend goes, oh, you know, if he actually fell all that way, his skull would be crushed and he'd be dead and he wouldn't be able to talk. And you're like, that's great that I know that. You just talked over the part where he talks about shawarma and now this movie's ruined for me. Thank you so much for that. It's just kind of a know-it-all idea that kind of goes against what makes kind of stupid big blockbusters entertaining. You can't really hold on to logic so much with a lot of these movies. And when people do that, they're kind of thinking more about being a know-it-all than actually think about what makes a movie work. And especially like a dumb escapist movie like, you know, the Fast and the Furious films or the Avengers. And when you hold on to that and go, well, if this movie really thought about all this stuff, you know, there's no way this guy would have lived through all that. That's what I love about the Fast and the Furious films. There's no way Vin Diesel would have caught Michelle Rodriguez in that jump in Fast 6. But Need for Speed has to do all this realistic stunt driving for whatever reason. And the only awesome, really awesome stunt they do is when they do what they call the grasshopper jump. When that car jumps over like all that grass and all those cars and makes that ridiculous jump. That's a really impressive sequence. And a lot of the stunt driving is better than I've seen in a lot of car racing movies, and probably some of the best stunt writing that Hollywood has to offer, really. It doesn't really get why you want to see a Fast and the Furious film and why you want to see a dumb street racing movie. It just thinks about like trying to act like you want to be connected to the characters with one of the dumbest scripts I've ever seen in my life. The dialogue in this film is beyond stupid, and it's trying to make story points that the dialogue isn't leading to. There's so many sequences where it just rushes to what they want the film to get to, but they don't earn it with, like, you know, dialogue or character. When I think of 70s films that obviously didn't use CG and they use practical stunt driving and everything, I think of like Grand Prix and Vanishing Point or Bullet, and they have extended awesome sequences of just racing, and it's only about racing. It's not as much about character development, especially in Vanishing Point and Grand Prix. And Need for Speed seems to think we need all this character and we need this emotion, like it needs to tug at my heartstrings, but it's totally a stupid idea. It's a stupid impulse. Having a leading man like Aaron Paul, who I actually think is a very good actor, this is not a great script for him. I feel like he's not the leading man they need for this kind of a role, because the thing about, again, about Fast and the Furious is that you have actors in there that you can watch ironically who aren't actually good actors, like Vin Diesel or Paul Walker. Watching a good actor be not very good in a movie that's not very good is just kind of depressing. It's not funny. And Aaron Paul, but it really wasn't the best role for him. He was kind of miscast. They need somebody who's like a leading man, and kind of a bad leading man. And no one is really good. Kid Cudi was especially bad. I guess he's trying to be like a Disney sidekick type character. I don't know why he wants to be an actor, because he's not very good. I kind of like Michael Keaton because he gets to ham it up. And I think if you had actors who just realize this is a dumb Need for Speed movie, let's just ham it up and be ridiculous, this would kind of maybe work a little more. But because they're trying to act like it's like some sort of dumb drama that we need to build these characters and like have Aaron Paul look like he's gonna cry a lot, it's gonna mean more to me. I just want to see cool racing, and there is a lot of cool racing. I don't think the cinematography with the racing is amazing. I wish it had been shot a little better with all this practical car racing. It has a big sequence where he's driving from New York to California that I think works for the most part, and it keeps like the film going, you know, which even though it's kind of front loaded at the beginning with all this stupid crap, but when it really gets going, it does work in its own stupidity a little bit. But I just think like the whole theory of it is completely misguided on what makes these films entertaining. And I know every studio wants their kind of rip-off Fast and the Furious franchise, and Need for Speed's the only franchise that was successfully made, and it's really blatantly trying to be like Fast and the Furious, even though it is based on a video game. I don't think it really succeeds because it doesn't seem to get why those films are entertaining, and why Need for Speed was entertaining, the video game, is because you could do all this cool stuff, and it's really about stupid escapist fun. And trying to act like this is something more, and you need us to really believe in these characters and understand their arc, I don't really care about any of that. I just want to see cool sequences of cars racing that are completely unbelievable, and that was a lot more fun for me. That's something I will watch a million times. I want to see ridiculous setups that could never plausibly happen and laugh at them, and that's why I like it. But Need for Speed isn't a good version of a bad escapist movie. It's just a bad escapist movie. So if you have seen Need for Speed and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.